Hello, I'm Kerr. Welcome to my art studio. Have you ever wondered about your watercolours as to whether they're good quality or poor quality? Or gone into an art shop, an art supply shop and thought, which ones do I buy? I don't know what the qualities are. Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you 2 ways that you can test your watercolours and find out what sort of quality they are. Are you ready? Let me show you the first of 2 ways that we can do that. I'll turn my camera down to the table and we'll have a look. Now, the beauty of watercolour is its wonderful transparency. And if you want to find out if the paints you have are transparent or not, then this is how you do it. Here I've got a piece of ordinary watercolour paper and a piece of black paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint on some paints from a cheap box of watercolour paints and also from my own box. So here is the paint from the cheap box, straight across both of the pieces of paper. I'll wash out my brush and then I'll pick up as near to that colour as I can from my own box and paint that underneath. And then I'll move on to the yellow. So we'll take the yellow from the cheaper box first and paint that on. The reason I'm going across both the pieces of paper is that I'm going to let them dry, and then you'll be able to see which ones are transparent and which ones aren't. Whoops, a bit more water I think in that one. So here's the one from the cheap box. And a quick wash of the brush and pick up mine from my box. And then we'll do a blue as well. We may as well stick to the primary colours. So here's the one from the cheap box. And then I'll pick up the one from my box. There we go. Now what we'll do is we'll let these dry, and once they're dry, you'll be able to see which ones of these are transparent and which ones are not. Because if they're transparent, you'll be able to see the black paper shining through. Now, I know everybody doesn't have black paper, so what you could do is you could have a piece of ordinary watercolour paper and you could draw a big black line down the middle with a permanent marker, something like this, so that the black line isn't going to move when you wet it. So a big black line down the middle, and then paint your paints across just like I did, because not everybody has black paper. So we'll leave that to dry, and we'll come back in a minute and have a look. Right, we're now back after a few minutes, just a few minutes, let it dry, and you can see what's happened. If I just separate those slightly. Here, this is the one from the cheap box, this is the one from the cheap box, and this is the one from the cheap box. Now all those are fairly opaque, and yet the ones from the professional paints are transparent because you can still see the black paper coming through underneath. So that's a very good way of testing whether or not your paints are transparent. It's a very easy test to do, and as I said, you could use a black line like this rather than a piece of black paper. So try that out for yourself with your own paints at home. You might be surprised. I'm not saying that all watercolours should be transparent, because they're not. There are some watercolours that are supposed to be opaque. And actually, if you buy any of the cadmiums, like cadmium yellow, cadmium orange and cadmium red, they will always be opaque. Always have been, always will be. So just be aware of that. If it's not opaqueness that you want with your watercolours, steer away from the cadmiums. So that's a little test that we've done to find out whether our paints are transparent or not. Now, I mentioned there were 2 tests that we can do. That was one of them. And the second one is, if you go into an art shop and you look at a range of paints from a particular manufacturer, let's say Winsor & Newton. Everybody's heard of Winsor & Newton. So you look at the Winsor & Newton paints on the shelf and you notice that they're all different prices for different colours. And you think, why? Well, I'll tell you why. Let's look down at the desk again. Now, this is my yellow ochre paint. And this is a picture of an ochre quarry. Now, ochre is a mineral which has to be dug out of the ground, hence the ochre quarry. And then the mineral is ground down into a powder, and that ends up in my paint. So if the mineral is easy to find and it doesn't cost too much to get it out of the ground, then that will be reflected in the cost of my paint. And if the mineral is more scarce and it costs a lot of money to get it out of the ground, then that also will be reflected in the cost of my paint. So that's why some of the paints on the shelf have different prices. The reds may have a different price to the yellows. The yellows may have a different price to the blues. And you'll see things like Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, all different prices. And that's the reason. And if they are different prices for different colours, you can more or less guarantee that those paints are good quality because they have got real minerals in them. If then you see another range of paints where every tube is the same price, say $3.99 for a tube. Doesn't matter what the colour, they're all the same price. Now, the chances are that those paints are all made of manufactured coloured dyes. There'll be very little in the way of real minerals in them. And that's how you can tell the difference in the quality. The ones that have the real minerals with the different series, Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, those paints, the colours will be much richer and stronger. The ones that are made from the manufactured coloured dyes will be much weaker colour, well, not much weaker, but a little weaker as far as the colours are concerned, and also they will fade quickly. So if you want to keep your paintings for a long time, or you're going to sell them, then I would suggest that you don't use the cheaper paints because they will fade. I hope that's been interesting. I hope it's helped you to realise that there are different qualities with watercolour paints and how you can actually find out what those qualities are. So 2 ways that you can do it. If this video has been useful, then please click that little subscribe button and the bell icon, and that will let you know when I upload the next video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. And remember, there is an artist in everyone. Bye for now.